unfiltered truth come
Yeah.
out. All right, now we're live. It's public. Y'all share it. We got a couple things to catch up on.
Well, I wish you'd scheduled this because earlier I was like, oh man, I can't find anything on a schedule because I would have shared it. Of course, not my internet.
It's
but
weird.
yeah, keep going. I'm gonna find the post and share it.
Yeah, it's out on my Dan Plata feed.
Oh, okay. Not on home service happy hour.
No, they stopped letting you share to groups. Stop letting you stream to groups. And you can't create an event because you don't actually go live in the event. You go live on StreamYard and then stream it to wherever you want. You can't I haven't found, maybe somebody out there knows, maybe there's a way to stream to an event, but I haven't figured it out. So I created an event for a recruiting webinar Sean Day and I are doing, and it's almost misleading because then people are waiting and thinking that you're going to go live in this event, but the event isn't where you go live. You go live on StreamYard and then stream it out. And so they're in one place waiting, thinking it's happening over here, but it's actually happening over here. So it's kind of once we get out here, and again, we should have hit the live button while we were just BSing before. That gives people a chance to get on, hang out, see what's going on, share it, ask some questions, do whatever. Instead, it's you got to build your viewer momentum. If you're checking in, do this. Give us a shout out where you're checking in from, and drop your favorite emoji. I love the emojis. Here, this is going to be a new bit that I want to do, Brad.
Okay.
Especially my radio show. Whenever we have a storytelling sequence, I want people to write their story via only emojis, and then I'm going to read it just based on my interpretation of those emojis. It's gonna be a lot like a game of telephone, but even worse.
Okay, so someone's going to write in this story.
Yeah, we can prompt the story. It's a fun way to give stuff away. So when Angela and JC were doing sales boosts last year, we had to give away some tickets. So we came up with this idea to have people write emoji stories, and damn, it was fun to read those and then pick the winner just based on the goofiest story we could come up with about why somebody deserved a ticket to sales boost. Sid Graff was on talking huge convention a few weeks ago, did the same thing, got a goofy story about huge convention stuff and gave a ticket away. So it's fun to do for giveaways, but I think it should just be a regular weekly thing. And on my radio show, I have a sponsor coming on. Which I got to get back to her. Once I have a sponsor, maybe I'll give something away in collaboration with them. So that every episode we can do a goofy giveaway based on the best emoji story.
I love it.
Week. Just a sweet way to give some stuff away.
Yeah, I mean, mix it up a little bit. I like that. I listened to a podcast, and they talking about crazy bits, and they've gotten to where they play games against each other at the end of the show, like trivia or whatever such nonsense. It has nothing to do with the content. It's like a bodybuilding podcast, and these morons do geography trivia against each other.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah,
but it's so entertaining. It's so entertaining because it brings out people's competitiveness, and they don't have any expertise in the subject matter. So it's just, it's really fantastic. And I don't know why I like it. They play that, and you think I would turn it off at this point, right? We're an hour and a half deep into a total nonsense podcast.
But that's just
and they start playing games. I can't even watch them. I'm riding around in the car, and they're playing trivia games. I'm over there playing along. But I always love that on the radio, right? In the morning shows when they would do games and stuff like that. So I guess
it gets your brain working, and you're like, "Ooh, I wonder how many I know."
Yeah. It is amazing to me. I wouldn't call it lowbrow, but how uncreative or original content can be, but it can work.
Yeah.
So flipping well.
Music has that element. Music totally has that, where it's it can be a guitar and a set of drums, and it can sound unbelievable. It can be so simple. It doesn't need to be the craziest, most complex guitar riff to sound amazing. It can be real simple.
Yeah. Do you play?
Yeah. Play would be an overstatement. I own a drum set. I definitely can't read music, so a guitar is out. Okay. It'd be fun if I wasn't obsessed about growing my business. It's I would like to picture myself as a sweet ass guitar player. That would be I don't know if I'm willing to put in the work, but if magically that was a skill I had, I'd be really pleased with that if I could just slam a guitar around. But I did buy a drum set when I was in college. One of my buddies was a drummer, and so I know enough to like lay down a beat. And I have enough muscle talent. Like it's weird muscle skills to separate the movements of your limbs. Like your right hand and your right leg need to be able to do different stuff, and left, same thing. And you have to like train your body to be able to move them independently. It's crazy. Like when you first sit down on a drum set, like whatever your right arm is doing, your right leg immediately wants to do the same thing.
Okay.
Super.
I mean,
weird.
that makes sense. That makes sense. I always wanted to learn to play drums. My parents wouldn't let me get a set, and I never could imagine as a teenager why they didn't want me to have a set of drums.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
What could possibly go wrong?
You know, God, you're so oppressive. Like, you know, what kind of regime do we live in here that I can't have a set of drums in the house to beat on?
Yeah.
So yeah, I never got to learn that. I never, it's always been my dream. So I'm gonna live vicariously through you, Dan.
There's not much to live through. It's pretty weak. It's pretty weak. I did the last, kind of like the only time I've ever been on stage and played a song with a drum set was at my wedding. It was just Marty and I's 13th anniversary. I think it was our 13th anniversary. We had an anniversary of some sort. It was recent. And at our wedding, we had live music. That was one of my buddy's bands. And so after 78 beers, I got up there and they let me play the drums. And I crushed it. I was like pretty happy with myself. I think I was just drunk enough that I had like the flow going, or maybe I was drunk enough that I sounded good to myself. But multiple people that didn't know I could drum were like, I didn't know you could do that. And I was like, I didn't know I could do that either. But you know how when you listen to music, the drummer, like especially live music, the drummer's the one that starts it. That's like, one, two. I was like, hey, I don't actually know how to like start a song. How about you guys start playing and then I'll like come in. Like once I hear the song you're playing, I'll be able to lay a beat down that goes with it. I don't know what it's gonna sound like, but we played some like CCR, we played some classic rock. I just went right along, got her going, and everybody was like, not bad. That sounded like what it was probably supposed to sound like. I was like, I don't know. It sounded like music to me. That's drumming. You don't actually need to know. You should make it up.
I am so impressed with people that can kind of conceive music in that way. You know, when we were doing the whole Unhinged thing, we're working with this guy to write the music for it. I don't know if you ever paid attention to any of the episodes you heard, but you know, it has.
Well, now I'm gonna have to.
Wait, so it's got its own music, right? So you know, we weren't gonna just like use music; we had to write music for it.
Yeah, you gotta have some music.
And so this guy comes in, and it's like he sits at his synthesizer, and like, you know, kind of chatting with him about kind of the feel and the stuff. And so like he goes over and, you know, he does a thing and like puts a beat together and then plays that on a plane and then starts adding stuff to it and then plays that on a thing and adds a different instrument to it. And it's just like, I am so amazed. I think I'm a creative person.
Yeah.
But like, I don't have that type of creativity.
Well, and like from a blank slate, I say something like mellow and catchy but businessy, professional sounding. And he's just like, oh yeah, I feel you. And then just like just get something, and you're just like, yeah, that's perfect. How, like, what made your brain go to that?
Yeah.
Like, how did you even know that was a sound that a thing would make that would go along with this? Like, now that you say it, the music it's like the perfect music for the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, somebody had to make that music up. And how did their brain, like, how did they know? How did they know that it was supposed to sound like that?
Well, and it was like we were talking about, he's like, yeah, I don't want to go down that route because like everything sounds like that. So he's like making this whole thing up, and it's like it was really funky, which was fun for what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it was just like, how did you do that? Like, I get like he was like, we could just make it sound like a mystery podcast, right? Like there's kind of like a vibe, and we could just repeat like what other ones have done. And it's like he brought in like some elements, and he's like, yeah. And then he brought in like some folk sounds because it was like, you know,
you're in the middle and you're in Nowari.
My man. And yeah, it was just, I was totally blown away by it. And he's like bringing in the mandolin because we given him some inspiration with some artist that Matt likes. And I'm just like, dude, how do you do this? Like I am so impressed when people have these different kinds of creative talents that like are so outside the scope of like what I possess. And I shouldn't say this on any kind of live broadcast. I was talking to my wife about this. I was like, a lot of things I look at what other people do and I'm like, I could do that.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like super arrogant, but I'm like, I could do that. Like if I learned to do their business or whatever, I could do
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But this is one of those things I look at and I'm like, I don't think I could. I don't think that the wires cross in my brain correctly,
Mm-hmm. There's a couple things like that in just the in the working space. I'm saying that as if like writing music isn't working. In the in the greasy hand working space.
Yeah.
And dirty finger and dirt under the fingernail working space, where like I look at electrical stuff, and it's like I'm a math guy. I should be able to understand electrical stuff, but just motherboards and how computers work and phones work and like all of that stuff, I don't know that I can figure all that stuff out. I just don't, like, maybe, but I look at like an auto mechanic and working on a car, and I'm like, I could totally see myself doing that. Like greasy hands, taking things apart and putting things back together. And then as I say that, I'm well aware that like cars are just a bunch of computers now. And so I also understand that conflict. But that's the thing where I look at and I'm like, I could totally do that. That would be super fun to do. But then I look at electronics and I'm like, I don't know, just a freaking bunch of wires everywhere. Like I'm barely capable of like putting a new light fixture in with a red and a black and a ground. And it's not even a red and a black, it's a white and a black. See, that's how bad I am at it. And I just know that because my mother-in-law asked me to replace like 4 light fixtures last week. So it's fresh, super fresh. What's the red? The red must be an outlet. Maybe it's red and black and outlets.
I should know this. I was a home inspector. I was in construction, and I'm sitting here thinking like, which wires, which. I always wonder, like, to me, it seems like super ballsy. You see somebody that knows how to do electrical work, like they don't even turn the breaker off.
Yeah, you're playing.
They just start pulling wires out and like digging outlets out and all this stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking,
yeah, you're.
I don't. It seems like crazy to me. Like I can't think of a good like it's like changing an outlet without turning the breaker off and like free soloing a mountain. I mean, they're both things I just simply wouldn't do.
What's the? Have you been zapped before? Messing with wires? What's the worst, like, memorable one? Is there a memorable zap that sticks out to you? I only ask because I totally have one and I want to tell the story, but I gotta ask you first, so it sounds like I'm a good podcast.
Well, the memorable ones all happened when I was a kid.
And then you hear the story over and over from your parents, like, yeah, remember that one time?
Yeah, I got a hold of an electrified cow fence.
Ooh.
And that was memorable. That really, like,
I bet that sent it to you.
Yeah, and I had to have been like 7 or 8. But
did it like blow you back? Like, what happens when you snap onto one of those babies?
I mean, I feel like it did. I just remember it really scaring the snot out of me.
I bet, like,
I remember scaring the snot out of that. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say there was another time both these happened with different grandparents, and I was at my grandparents' house. They had all these old like radios and electronics, and it wasn't because they had anything cool. It was just because they didn't throw anything away because they were Depression era people. Mm-hmm. So like anything they had ever owned, they kept. Like
going nowhere,
clothes, newspapers, radios, trash, whatever, food. They just you just bought a new freezer. You filled up a freezer and you bought a new freezer.
Yep.
And then when the freezer would go out, the food would go bad. And so I had a hold of this. I was like, finding like these old like electronic things. I was super excited. And of course, the cords are old and totally stripped because they were just cloth to begin with. And I had my hand around one and I jammed it in the outlet, and it, gets a hold of you because your hands are around it, not up against it. At least the cow fence, like I went back, but that I got a hold of it. I was
gonna say, if you grabbed a cow fence, that would be real tough to
and it just, I definitely, those are my zap memories, as a child. So
I should have got zapped real bad from an electric fence one time. My friend Ashley Walters had horses, and so their entire like outside yard was electric fence. We were playing basketball in her driveway at night, like you do when you're in high school and you got nothing better to do on a Friday night. We're like balling, and the driveway was up on top of the hill. Ball. If you'd believe it, I think I like bricked a shot. Like normally it's actually what probably happened. I switched it so good it probably hit the post of the hoop and then just went flying back behind me. I can't imagine I would have come
short. Yeah, of course.
But that ball got to the hill, starts rolling down the hill. I forget 100% that there's an electric fence, and like I'm not world class speed, but I'm like a 4.6, 4.7 40 runner. Like my little legs can move pretty good. I got some wheels.
I'm impressed.
And when you're chasing a ball, you're twice as fast. When you're chasing something, you can run in faster. While I'm chasing a ball downhill in the dark, the ball went under the fence just fine. Me, I hit that fence full speed, didn't see it one bit. Luckily, I didn't hit one of the posts. Like I hit it so hard, I had like 3 lines on my body from each spot where I made an impact. And it must have looked like I just hit a brick wall. I mean, that fence was made real well. I didn't like go into it and slink back. It was just like bonk. I mean, it just like bam, just knocked me over. And it wasn't turned on. Thank God. I don't know what would have happened, but the impressions on my body were just outstanding or insane.
Yeah.
I mean, it just like cut me just from sheer impact. So that was the time I didn't get zapped, but I should have. The best time I got zapped, it should have been on Home Improvement. Like this is a Tim the Tool Man Taylor type of zap. I was working on my garbage disposal and like outlets under there. And I was going to the breaker and going back and forth and doing that thing. I think I was like changing the outlet that the garbage disposal was in or something. Like, I don't remember what I was doing now, but I was doing something with electricity with outlets. And I got zapped because I forgot to turn the breaker off. And when you get zapped, your body goes like this, and immediately sat up and smacked my head on the garbage disposal because I was laying on my back. So it was very like Marty heard me. She was in like just over in the rest of the kitchen, and she just heard like, oh, ow, like boom, she's like, what'd you do? And I'm just like, oh, like where you get hurt bad enough that you can't really talk because you're like, I'm still trying to figure out if I'm okay. And she's like, Dan, what do you do? Like, what happened? And I'm just like, I'm just really embarrassed. Like, I really hurt my pride, I think, but I think I'll be okay. Like, I just, and she's like, oh man, your head doesn't look so good. And I'm just like, yeah, like that's the worst part. But like, can you go shut the breaker off for me and I'll just finish this project down here? Like, this is just wildly embarrassing. But I survived.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness the disposal didn't take you out.
Right. It was just a quality check to make sure it was in there nice and firm. And it was. Yeah. It didn't budge much. It won versus my face. What do you want to talk? I want to talk about Unhinged a little bit. And just like I want to tease it a little bit. I want to tease it. It's super cool. I'm not all the way through it though, so don't like tease it too much. I don't want any spoilers here.
Okay.
And then we got to talk about Grit. And I don't even know what the hell Grit is. So like I really need to ask you a bunch of questions about that.
Okay. Well, it's a little closer to home for the industry, I guess. Not that you're like a pressure washer or anything, but it's a little bit closer to home than Unhinged. I feel like fencing is a little bit more in the construction world, and Grit's a little bit more in the home service world, I guess.
Yeah, but the lessons are all the same.
You and I have like had chats before. Like I'm like always talking about content and all this stuff. And I guess, one of the things that like has always kind of been a thing for me is really want to get out and, create content that's just like not cookie cutter. Mm-hmm. Right. Like that's been kind of my pet peeve, or what I've seen as a big opportunity since we really started messing around with video, 8 or 9 years ago, was everybody's like does the same thing, right? Like and forever, and still to this day, most content is just like branding videos, right? Like it's a commercial, and it's the same formula that everybody uses for everything.
Just
and
people trying to sell some shit.
Yeah.
And that's why I just get on here and have my cocktails and talk to cool people.
Yeah. Like, so why not do something a little different? And I think it's real easy to preach about that stuff, and started searching out some opportunities to do that. That's really where the projects were like born from, is like, what can we do if like we push it a little bit and we get like totally outside the box?
Oh yeah.
And so Unhinged was this like crazy idea. What if we did business stuff, but it was fiction? Like, what if what if we just completely threw the rule book out for podcasts and we did something fictional, but we brought in the business lessons? Well, we made real entertainment, you know,
What
and
is it a podcast from the get-go, or what? Like, I could see something like that starting as like a book idea too. Like, let's write a fiction book, but
you know,
instead of it being like business lessons and examples, like let's make it fun, like a parable type of thing.
and stay tuned on that. Like
Ooh.
that is in my pocket. And I can't, if my wife is watching this, like I'm trying to get my book out, and that's not my book. And we'll talk about that in a later date. But that is my dream. You ever read any Patrick Lencioni's books?
Yeah.
Okay. So he is my hero in the business book writing world. You know, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, 6 Working Geniuses. Those are like 2 big favorites of mine. 1, I love the messages, but 2, the parable, right? Like they're total fiction. Dude. What's that?
He's a super entertaining dude, like book and just in person.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. Super nice dude. I've actually got a tangential connection to him, and I just have not worked it out to like get a meeting with him, but I'd probably fanboy out like really bad. So it would be embarrassing. So maybe it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah. Like I've just been totally inspired by that work where it's like, you just write something and you're just involved with the story. But when you're done, you gain something from it. And, you know, I'm not like, I was never a fan. I can't believe I'm saying all this. This is like, we're recording this stuff, but I was never like a fan of audio dramas. I really never got into anything like that. And I listened to something in the software space where somebody had kind of, you know, brought in some of these elements. And I was listening to a guy that created something, and it's like the only thing of its kind. And I heard it and I was like, holy crap. We've got to pull fiction off. We've got to do this. It is like, this is the coolest freaking thing in the world. And so I called up Matt, and I was like, we've been talking about like doing something crazy. I was like, Matt, I've got an idea. You want to do something crazy? We can do something crazy. And he's like, okay. And I was like, we're going to do a purely fictional, entertaining podcast. We're going to write it. We're going to script it. We're going to have actors. We're going to do all this stuff. And he was like, I'm in. Just tell me how much it costs. Let's roll. And it's really cool to be working with somebody that like will like back you like that, because I don't even think he had any idea what we were making for months, you know, and they just totally backed me on it.
He went Cosmo Kramer on it. He's like, yeah.
And so, and the cool thing was, and then we started like pulling the elements together. So like their business is based in a little town called Waverly, Nebraska, and it is noir. It is nowhere, Nebraska. It's outside of Lincoln, but it's like a stoplight.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, so we pulled that out, and I had spent some time out there, and I'd picked up on like all these like fun oddities, Midwestern Nebraska oddities or whatever. And so things that you hear in the show, like they're like totally legit like
stuff.
Yeah. Like this whole like eating runza and cinnamon rolls and chili, like this is all like real Nebraska things, right?
Real world stuff here.
Yeah. Like, and so it was like, what a perfect setting to like go full on Midwest. I'm a huge fan of King of the Hill. Like that was probably my favorite TV show of all time, right up there with Home Improvement though. Like you bring that up, I think that was my childhood. But yeah, King of the Hill, probably my favorite TV show of all time. And I always loved the small town Texas authenticity that they brought in that show.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like the show was like nothing, like there was nothing that actually happened in it of any consequence, but it was so entertaining, and it was so America, and it was so small town.
The characters were all just like relatable. You're like, that dude's just like my uncle.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And how often did you watch Hank? And I'd be like, yeah, my dad might do something like that.
Damn it, Bobby.
Yeah. And so it was like, okay, so like we want that King of the Hill feel. And then we started like riffing on this, and it was like, but how cool would it be if there was like a lost element in it? You know, like what if we like went like kind of out there with some of the concepts and all that? And so like we brought in this like, what if we just ask more questions than we give answers? You know, and so we kind of made that kind of funky. We knew it needed to be funny. Like it couldn't be too serious. Like this is not like a murder mystery where like everybody's dying, these groups. Cause I started listening to some of these audio dramas, and they're all dark as can be. Like they're all so scary and dark. And it's like, okay, that's not going to work for a business. Like we got to be more fun than that. So we bring it into comedy, but I love the idea of having a mystery in the element. And then the last element was the business part. And so Matt is just this really awesome guy that teaches culture and business lessons in his world. And he's not a coach. He just owns a really successful business. Like, went from like bankruptcy to a business, and he does not let me tell revenue figures, but like 110 plus employees and big revenue numbers in like 10 years.
Out.
He's awesome at business, and he loves teaching culture, and he does all these like groundbreaking things, and he's teaching it to the industry. So it's like, okay, so we're going to have our main character, and he's got to be a fence contractor because this is for the fencing industry.
Yeah.
And he's going to be and here's the thing, like I have not gotten a chance to talk about this, but we based it on like what I know about Matt when he was younger. He was a hothead, when his ego was too big. And so he's told me all these stories. So I was like, so we kind of loosely based it on this like immature version of Matt. But then we're like, we need that voice of wisdom that plays in. So we cast Matt as a radio DJ in the town who can kind of play that voice of wisdom. So, and because you're not in the fence industry, I think I can say this, and hopefully this doesn't get back. I'll get in so much trouble. So we originally wrote it as Matt the Mouth. And so he hears this and he is like, guys, you guys can do whatever you want. He said, but if you call me that, he said, I will gain that nickname in the industry for the rest of my life. Can I be Matt the Miracle? And I was like, he literally didn't even ask to read the scripts, or he doesn't even know how the whole thing ends yet. He'll tell you that. Like, he still hadn't heard the very end of the episode, end of the season. So total trust. So if he says, can I be Matt the Miracle? No problem. So we kind of write that in. Originally, I thought of that as being like the device of like, how do you get inside the main character's head? Because on audio, you can't see their mannerisms, and you need some kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's when we came up with, I have the most talented script writer in the world on this project, Tori.
Yeah.
He really kind of brought my vision to life with this, but he was like, what if he calls home to his wife? And she kind of becomes this is how we know what's going on in Billy's head. So it was going to be Bill Gates, but then we kind of said, nah, Billy D. Gates. Yeah. Just tone it down just a little bit. So Billy D. Gates.
Bill Gates is a nice pun though.
Yeah. Well, they're all puns, all the names though. So like, his wife Waverly, we named that after the town. Yeah. But then all the characters are all puns. So we have Jackson Carpenter.
Waverly, but now that makes sense.
So that's why she's Waverly.
Now it's like you're lifting up the hood, and I'm seeing a little bit behind the scenes. I get it now.
Yeah. So we have Sheriff Cedar. So imagine fences wood, right? A lot of them are wood puns. Lattice redwood, Ben Post, Barbara wire. So barbed wire.
Yeah.
Let's see what other characters are there. We have Softy as the hardware store owner. And I'll tell you a story about that in a second. Who else what other characters in the show? I'm kind of drawing a blank here. Cherry Picket, and Lucky Picket. So Lucky Picket's the one that goes missing. So you all these like fence wood puns for the names. Like we went like full dad joke.
I got the Picket ones, but I'm embarrassed to say I didn't catch a lot of the other puns. Now I'm like,
this is a total look under the hood for sure.
Now I can't even be proud when I hear it that like, oh, I get it. Like I just like it just went over my head. I just wasn't paying attention to that.
Yeah. So yeah, man, it's been like the coolest project in the world. Talk about working with creative people that possess talents that are just blow me away. And like at the end of the day, I'll get all the credit for making the show. It's my show, but holy crap, man, I just wrangled a bunch of really talented people.
The people doing the voices do such a good job of making you feel like you're in it. Like they're so believable, and their inflections are funny too.
Yeah.
Like they're believable, but they're not slapsticky. So it's like they're funny and they capture it, and you just feel like you're with them. and they're like kind of making fun, but also delivering the goods. And I
I know.
just don't understand how they did that. It's the same reason, like, I don't understand how the person that wrote the music could have written the music.
I
Like, I don't
know.
know how they
I
get there,
know.
but they just like nailed that vibe of like professionally goofy.
It is, it's such incredible. So we're going through this process and writing it, which is a way bigger and more involved process than you can imagine.
I
You know,
bet.
it's not like we just sit down and like throw the story on paper and start script writing. We spent like months developing the story on beat boards.
Kidding.
And so that was the great thing of having somebody who's a script writer for television and movies. And he is like, you can't have too many details. You won't fill it up. You won't fill up the story. So he said, this is a
Meaning like
movie's
don't
worth of content.
meaning like don't put so many details
No
in, or
more
like
details.
you
You
never
need
have enough. Yeah,
more
yeah. Okay.
substance, more details, more beats in
Yep.
the
Yep.
story, because
Yep.
otherwise it'll be totally hollow. He's like,
It's
even
just
though these
like telling
episodes
a
are,
hunting story. You need to be talking about which way the wind was coming from, and that this leaf drifted by, and that you could smell the dead carcass from like maybe a skunk over there. And you got to like paint the entire picture and just put somebody right in that setting.
and so like with these beat boards, it's like all the different story elements, right? Like that are coming through. And when you think it 8 episodes at 15 minutes long, that's a movie. He said a movie
Yeah.
is a lot of content.
Yeah.
And so like we
Oh,
really,
especially when there's no visual to go with it. Like you
yeah,
have to fill all those gaps with words. In a movie that you can go like sometimes a minute or two with just an action scene. There's no words, right?
yeah,
You don't have to write
yeah.
anything. It's just like you kind of, I mean, I suppose you like write the scene and stuff, but there's got to be way less words in a movie than in a fictional podcast, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is. I have been really pleased with what we can do with the sound effects. That has helped the experience a lot. So it's like a catch-22 between audio and visuals. In audio, the fun part is there's no limit. We can go anywhere, we can do anything. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing that we can't create.
You can paint whatever picture you want to paint.
Whatever we want. Like there's no like, oh, that explosion is going to cost too much money. We
Yeah.
can't go there. We don't have that budget. But
Yeah.
in video, you take for granted how much even just looking at a person or pushing a camera angle in a certain way affects the story and affects how you feel.
Yeah.
And so what amazes me with these actors is they give you that and you can't see their face.
Mhm.
Right? Like you can't see the look, you can't see their body language, but
Yep. You can still feel it.
you can still feel it. And like I was talking with them about that recently, and they're like, well, you just have to do it. And if you do it, people can hear it. And so
Yeah,
like
you've
one
got to
thing I
feel it.
noticed is
If you
they
feel it,
do
you
it,
say
they
it.
act it out. So like we have this dude, most talented voice actor in, I don't know, I'm just totally losing it anyway, Alex. And Alex plays just a bunch of small parts. He has no major part in it, which I totally regret. But he's like, no, I love doing the small parts.
Season two.
And season 2 is coming. And you heard it here, maybe not first, but you heard it here. And so there's a scene where he's a prison, he's in the jail, and he's doing push-ups. Dude hops off the mic, gets down on the floor, does push-ups, and then gets back up and does the scene. And it
Yeah.
was like they get into it, like they get into it as if they were on video.
Oh,
And but the dude, he can switch characters mid-sentence from like one character to another character. So he plays like the AI and like a jail, and he plays in the jail, and then he plays one of the workers, and then he plays like vendors, and he's the announcer at Cornstalk, and he reads a lot of the commercials. And the
no kidding.
dude, go ahead.
Oh, I was just like, I said, no kidding. Like it never crossed my mind that I was even hearing the same person multiple times.
And it's like different people. He just breaks it out, and like he could read the commercials, and he did like a normal version, a silly version, and then like a totally outrageous version.
Hey,
on command, do it. So it's blows. I actually thought when we were writing this, Dan, this is what I was going to tell you like 10 minutes ago before I went off on a tangent. I was like, I'll just play Billy, right? Like it's my show. I can play Billy. Like I get to cast the show, so I'll just do that. And so I'm kind of throwing this in the back of my mind. Of course, my wife and my co-producer and whatever, like they're not discouraging me, but they're not encouraging me.
Yeah.
And so we sit down and we do a few casting with some different people, and I'm so disappointed. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And then we really sit down with the first like true full-time professional voice actor, and I'm like, I don't even think I need a part in this. I'm pretty sure this is out of my depth.
Going back right now, you're like, we can't do this without that caliber of person, because I've heard what they can do, and we just got to figure out how to get somebody like that in here. It's got to be that level.
Yeah. And once we started working with the right people, and you realize like how good they are, it changed everything. And especially the girls, like Waverly, girl named Whitney plays Waverly, and she is just like, I mean, she's a dynamo. And I mean, and the cool thing for me is I got to direct it all. So I live directed everybody.
How do you direct that? Are like they in person with you, or is it
no? We basically get on a virtual call. They all have sound booths, so like everybody does like their own thing. Like they all have professional sound booths.
Yeah,
you know, mics, sound deadening, like all the things. They know how to listen to it and adjust it. And then would get on like a call like this, and I would just direct them through the lines.
Oh, cool.
I think in season 2, I want to do it, at least have the actors do the dialogue with each other on a single take, because I think it will help. I think they can play. And I read lines with a lot of them, just to kind of get the mood right, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to do more. I want the actors to be able to play off each other more.
Super fun.
Yeah. So, you know, you live and you learn through that process or whatever. But anyway, yeah, totally blown away by these people. And the thing's just crazy. I think the hardest part about it, Dan, is explaining to people what it is. Because most people, when you say the words like audio drama, they're like, I don't know what that is. And when you say a podcast,
I've been saying it's a business fiction podcast. Like it's all the lessons you want to hear, and you get to be entertained at the same time. It's everything. It's everything you'd want.
It is. And that's the fun part. It's entertainment. It's so empathetic. If you have a working business where you get grease under your nails, and you know, you work your
if you're in the fencing business, then you're getting slivers for sure. You're loaded with slivers. You carry like a tweezers in each pocket.
Yeah. But I think any business, anybody that's in construction or blue collar work, you're going to relate to this if you have a small business in this. Like, we get to a scene, and I'm not gonna, there's no spoilers, but there's a scene at the end of an episode late in the season, and like if it doesn't just about bring you to tears, because you can feel it, you can feel the desperation and those feelings we have as a business owner. And like, I mean, I listened to it, like I directed it, like we wrote it, like I know the story, and
you're sitting there like, you know,
the first time, and it's like, I mean, like I could feel it in my chest. And the thing is,
like when you go to a wedding of people that you like are really passionate about, and you're just all about them, and then you're like you see like she's walking down the aisle, and like they're not even crying, and you're sitting in the
yeah, you're like, what's wrong with me?
Real quick tangent. We were at Country Fest a couple weekends ago, and I have this thing that happens to me when I see young artists up on stage and they're crushing it and everybody's cheering them on, and you can just tell like how just jazzed up they are. And Marty, my wife, and then our friend Emily were making fun of me because I'll be like tearing up, and they're like, what is going on? I'm just like, I'm just so proud of them. Like, I don't know. It's like a dad mode thing where I see these like 20-year-old kids up there just like doing everything they can possibly do to like chase their dreams and living on ramen. And I'm just like, man, I'm just so proud of these guys. And they're like, aren't you like entertained by them? I'm like, yeah, they write like good songs and they get up and sing, but mostly and it's definitely like if it's a female artist, I'm like more proud because I have 2 daughters. Yeah. Right. And so like when they're up there and they're just singing their hearts out and the whole crowd's going nuts, I'm like choked up just out of pride. Like, I'm just so freaking pumped and proud of like their effort to get where they are. And they were making fun of me for it. So then the rest of the weekend, they're just like, I bet you're so proud. So proud of these guys. Super out.
It's like, come on, can I have a little emotion too? Like, come on.
I mean, I'm trying to be a tough guy, but that'll work a guy up. It's the same way I'd feel if I shot a monster buck. Just proud. Just proud.
I can totally relate. Like this project has brought a lot of that out for me when we were, in post-production, and I got back, the editor sent me back the first like 3 or 4 minutes of the first episode. It was the first I'd heard it all mastered and mixed.
Yeah.
Like I had a moment. Like there was a little bit of misty eyed, like to hear it come to life. And I would say it's like, maybe it's pride, maybe it's whatever, but yeah, it's funny things that affect you, in ways, whether it's like, watching the singers sing, the young people are kind of getting to do something that's really cool for sure. Yeah.
I can't put myself in your shoes. I can imagine what it's like in a way, but not specifically in those shoes, where it's like you work so hard on something, but you don't even know, like there's not a great way to check it. Like it needs to be all put together, and you don't really know what it's going to shake out to be. And so there's like a suspense for yourself of like, did I come up with an awesome thing, or is this the stupidest idea anybody's ever had? And I just spent a bunch of money on the stupidest idea anybody's ever had.
Well, that is the feeling that plays in the back of your mind. Like, yeah, okay, I felt good about it in the script stage. We did a table read for the first couple episodes, which was so much fun. That felt good. I had cast it well, I thought. Back of my mind, I'm like, we're going to put this together and it's going to sound janky, and it's going to fall flat. Like you're just bracing yourself for that. And we heard it, and like that news stinger comes in on the beginning, and the anchor comes in, and he is like, just nails it. And we play that sequence out, and it was just like, okay, it's going to work, right? Like
happening.
What I imagined, this might exceeded, the expectation, or it's certainly getting in the realm of the hope of what we imagined, for sure. But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I got a couple episodes to go, and I think I haven't had my wife listen to any of it, so I might we got like 5 hours of driving this weekend, starting, assuming Marty gets here tomorrow. We have 5 hours of driving between tomorrow and Friday. I feel like this would be fun she hasn't listened to any of it yet, so I might just trap all my family in the car, and
I think that's super realistic. Absolutely reasonable, totally reasonable to do that. Part of what we were aiming for with the show, and I'm sure you've noticed it, it's very family friendly.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Unlike my show, your podcast.
What the whole thing was I kept thinking, how cool would it be if we made something that a fence guy could feel like captured what they were about, but then it was something that they could sit down and listen to with their kids.
Yeah.
Like that is something I know as an entrepreneur. Sometimes it doesn't relate to your kids. Like they don't always get what you do.
Yep.
And I know, like for my dad, like he wanted to share what he did. And you kind of get a way to like share that thing, that we pour our blood, sweat, and tears, and our kids, they don't get it. And that's
like they maybe kind of notice or care, but they're living in their own little world. They're doing their thing.
And so my son has listened. He's up. He's only as far into it as the season is. So there's 5 episodes out. There's 3 more weeks to go. And in the end of episode 1, like you heard like the crazy noise, right, in the woods. Yep. And he was like, "Dad, that was my favorite part." He said, "What is it?" He's like, "What is it? What is that thing in the woods?" And I was like, you're gonna have to wait and see.
Cliffhanger,
You
man.
know, you have to wait and see. I'm not telling you. So
Fiction. It's fiction, dude. It's cliffhanger. Come on back for episode 2.
So yeah, you have to wait and see what the crazy sound was in the woods. You know, is it a Nebraskan red fox, or maybe
If this was taking place in north central Wisconsin, I'd say it's for sure a hodag.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, unless you're from north central Wisconsin, you wouldn't. But it's a mythical lizardy. It's like a lizardy raccoon type of thing with some horns on its head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is like one of the legendary creatures like we hear about like out in the.
It's right up there with Loch Ness. It's right up there.
Well, I'm thinking of like
maybe seen it.
What's the one in like? Is it like Chupacabra? Is what I'm thinking of, kind of being in more in that realm than Loch Ness.
Only because Loch Ness is in the water and the hodag is on land.
Yeah.
So on that end, you got it right.
Yeah, and four-legged.
Yeah. It's four-legged. Yeah. It's got a spiky tail, big eyeballs, horns on its head.
Yeah.
A little bit of everything going on. It's a hodag.
Okay. Yeah, reasonable. Like yeah, I think you're headed down the right.
It's right up there with the Sasquatch. I mean, it's nothing like a Sasquatch, but it's the same type of thing where it's like
definitely real and totally reasonable for people that chase after it. Yeah,
absolutely. And you just wonder how they're so good at avoiding all these trail cameras that the rednecks have out in the woods. Like somehow they're in a fourth dimension.
Right.
Nation.
And I could buy that. Did you ever? I watched this documentary on these people that were trying to document this I guess it was a Siberian tiger or Bengal tiger, whatever, like the super rare tiger is in Asia. Yeah. There's like none of them. And like these dudes freaking camped out for years in the mountains before they captured one on camera. I mean, like the efforts they went to in remote places to get one on camera one time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, the Sasquatch is pretty smart. So those were just a couple of cats.
That's a good point. Yeah, those were just cats and they were that elusive.
Yeah. I mean, it took years. And he knew where to look. So
you make a pretty good point there. Can't argue that. I wonder how many trail cameras they put out, though. That's the real question. With the Wi-Fi enabled trail cameras that they got now, that just blew. I just realized I have 70 some pictures to look at tonight. Once you and I get off, my trail camera's been like, and I only have 2 cameras out right now. I'm barely getting started.
You get good stuff. Is that? I assume that's like kind of a skill that you progress with, like knowing where to place them to actually get like cool stuff on the trail cameras.
Yeah, most of the time I just get pictures of blowing weeds. Is kind of what you get. But we mowed down. I was back last weekend, and you're gonna appreciate this. You're a tractor dude.
Yeah.
I was back at we have 150 acres in central Wisconsin that we deer hunt a little bit. I don't get back there nearly enough because it's like 3 hours away. Okay. And I get back less to hunt it than I do to work it. And I was back this weekend and we had the 4-wheeler with the big cutter behind it. And then we were going, and then I hooked up the sprayer and I was spraying, and my dad had the tractor out and we were cutting some trails with chainsaws and pulling stands here and flipping that over and doing all the stuff and putting up some cameras. And man, I was like, I'm just out here sweating, getting eaten alive by bugs. And I just couldn't be happier. There's just something about like being a fake farmer and working over some land. Like I'm not a farmer, but man, I love like planting some food plots and watching it grow and watching the animals eat it and harvest a couple of them. And then you get to eat them and tell the story. And just like the whole cycle of it, it just makes me really happy. I don't know why. I can't explain it.
There's very little that is as satisfying and peaceful as like getting out on a tractor or working a piece of property. Yeah. Like it is highly recommend, highly recommend you get a piece of property and get a tractor. Like,
and I don't know how to, now you probably have some people in your network here now that you got this podcast with some actors and people like that could probably make it sound sexy. Cause I'm sure as we say this, somebody that like didn't grow up running around on a tractor is like, what would be fun about just sitting out getting bitten by bugs and like baking in the sun and riding around on a tractor? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you. I haven't like pinpointed it. It's this combination of like peace and solitude, like clearing your mind, hard work. You're getting your fingernails dirty. Man, I took our whole sprayer apart like 3 times before I figured out where the valve was that the shit was getting stuck in and it would stop spraying. I mean, I
Yeah.
probably wasted 2 hours trying to take this piece of equipment apart, like out in the middle of a field, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and problem solving, working hard, you're sweating your butt off. You know me, having a couple cold beers when you need to take a break. And just like seeing the progression of your work. It's the same thing we all see in the home service space, whether you're building a fence, whether you're pressure washing something, whether you're in maid service and cleaning somebody's house. When you get to see the results of your work over time, like, damn, people don't even need to pay you to do it. A lot of times, like in this case, you're paying to do it. But damn, it's satisfying to like work hard and take pride in a progression like that and see a transformation. And for me, it's the passionate thing that I'm like all about is deer hunting and chasing critters and filling up the freezer and feeding my family. So when I can like connect it to
Right.
sort of purpose,
Yeah, the
just
dots connect. Like not only is the work itself satisfying, but it's building towards all the pieces around the passion. Yeah, I think it is part of it is because it gives us something that's become a pretty rare experience, and
yeah.
that is an activity that is totally consuming and where you're really present. Like
Oh yeah.
you're not distracted
Yep.
by your phone or the other things going on or the 6 other, things waiting on your list or in your mind. Like your mind can work and you can you're just there. Like when you're driving a tractor, that's it. You're just driving the tractor,
Yeah, you're looking at where you're going. You're paying attention to the RPMs. If you're pulling something, you're looking behind. Like I had to look behind me 7 times every second to see if that damn sprayer was getting clogged up. And
Yeah,
then I'd have to take it. Once I figured out where the heck the damn valve was, I'd take that apart and clean it out. You're just consumed.
it
Your
is.
brain isn't going off into like you're consumed, but in a good sort of way. It's not like taxing. It just distracts you the perfect amount from the stuff that you need to stop thinking about to be able to free your mind to like make it all make sense.
I totally love, like, one of my favorite things to do is to walk, walk outside.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's on our property or on a trail or whatever, for the same kind of reason. And I think getting on a tractor is like you get to mix that, right? Like where your mind can get really quiet and it can just decompress. You do your best thinking, but you're also like doing something, like you said, that you're watching progress and get better at the same time. Like you get to do good thinking and it's like super satisfying. Like just mowing a big field.
Oh yeah.
Like when we go mow the lower field, like we go bush hog it or whatever, and like watching it go from like, this high to being everything on the ground, it's like the most satisfying thing in the world. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Like what we are
No.
doing down there has no bearing on anything.
Yeah. We're just making it so we can see over this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean,
For a few
eventually,
weeks.
yes, stuff grows in it and it does get pretty nasty. Like little trees will grow in it pretty damn quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But still, it is the most satisfying thing in the world. And when you're down there, you might as well surrender to it because you can't go any faster. You can't shortcut it. There is no hack or cheat. You just got to do the lines, go back and forth, and it's going to take time.
Yep. We had I don't know, 48, 44, 48-inch cutter behind the four-wheeler, and the belt is getting loose. And so we had to we made the mistake of we took the 150 acres we have is like 20, 25 minutes from my parents' house. And then my brother has 80 acres, like 2 miles from my parents' house. So there's a couple spots we had to cut out there, a bunch of work we had to do at the bigger property. But then we had 2 trailers out there, one for the cutter, one for the four-wheeler. We took 1 truck. And then like, as we're about to leave, I'm like, how, because now we got to go to that property, but how are we going to, so then we had to go back home so I could get my truck. And the darn belt on that cutter, I don't think it's ever been replaced. So it's just like stretched and stretched and stretched. And so the minute the grass gets like long at all, that thing just starts slipping and you can see the smoke coming out of it where the rubber's just melting from the wheels turning. And so I didn't even know this was a thing. My dad ran into Fleet Farm. You guys got Fleet Farms? No, you don't. It's the store that smells exactly like a hardware store combined with a tire shop. If you can put all
those are good smells.
Yeah. It's like they call it the Man's Mall. It's totally a Midwest thing. Man's
Okay.
Mall.
Yeah.
So my dad ran into Fleet Farm and got belt dressing. Have you heard of this? It's basically like a spray can of tackiness. And so if a belt's getting loose, you spray it on the belt so that it'll grip whatever. And so we're like racing a storm coming in, and you can see the clouds starting to pile up and it's cooling down. And then it's like, well, we got to get this thing cut and sprayed before that gets here. And so like we're triaging, like, all right, we're gonna go back and get the truck, and then you're gonna run into town, and it's like town is 20 minutes away, and the equipment's 20 minutes the other direction. So we got it all done, and we beat the storm, and then just me and the old man sitting out, looking at our work, having an ice cold beer, just like what plotted dreams are made of.
Dude, best feeling in the world. Like add in a little bit of stakes, like storm. I mean, is there a better day? Is there like a better day than that? Like I think we are so fortunate to get to tap in to those kinds of things, because I get to do some cool stuff with work, but the day-to-day of sitting at my computer does not offer that type of satisfaction.
It's as good as it gets. And I think it's especially special when you end up now spending so much time at a computer to be able to get out and do that and just be working outside. Like, I miss working outside. I want to be working outside. I don't love sitting at a computer all day. It's just the nature of my nerdiness that has me sitting at a computer most days. So to be able to get out and go for a walk or exercise outside, like, I know running is shitty for you, but I don't want to be in a gym. I don't want to be on a machine. I want to get away from anything inside. I want to go out and run around and just breathe some fresh air. I don't even care if it's smoky and they're saying don't go outside.
Yeah.
I want to get my ass outside and just be outside. So if you can go do anything out there, I'm all about it.
Very little comes close. Very little comes close.
It's tough to beat. We have a special guest that wants to jump. Not even special. We have a guest. Special is not the right word. We have a guest that wants to jump in. And this, hold on, what's the best way to do this? I can't. My camera's in the way from where I need to put my note here. Here it is. Because we got to talk about grit too. And
all right, give me 2 seconds while you're getting a guest in. I'll be right back.
It's coming in. We'll see. Everybody hang tight. The link has been sent, and we got to transition to the new topic, which is grit. And I don't even know what grit is. I know about the podcast. If you're wondering who the guest is, it's Rob Anderson. He said, hey, time for a third wheel. So Rob's probably rounding up a brewski or a bourbon, and he's going to jump in. And if I heard Brad right at the get-go, the new project, the podcast, the Unhinged podcast, which, like, check it out. I don't care if you're in fencing or not. It's just freaking entertaining. It's so well done. It's nothing like any other business podcast you've ever heard. I just can't recommend it enough. It's freaking cool. This project I know has something to do with exterior cleaning. I don't know what. I've just seen the posts, but now we get to hear it straight from the source. Rob, link is in your the link's in your thing. Whatever.
Me?
You find it. No, Rob Anderson wants to jump in and
like, I need a link.
Yeah, we're doing Inception. Here we go. Here he comes. Rob the Screwball. Screwball, like that's what you're drinking, or Screwball like you're a screwball?
I mean, both.
Sure. Yes. Are you wearing an Old Bay seasoning shirt right now?
Yes. Says I put Old Bay on my Old Bay on the back. I know I did a great turnaround there.
That's like Frank's Red Hot sauce type of
market.
Yeah. Put that shit on everything. It's good stuff. I have a can of Old Bay that I totally intended on using in the Boundary Waters catching lake trout, and then we just didn't catch any. So I just have a can of Old Bay. Might have to bring it with fishing this weekend.
So my daughter is going to go to University of Maryland, and she just got her like gift from the dining hall. It's like, hey, in Maryland we put Old Bay on everything. So she's got like this little mini thing. It's like, oh, that's cute. That's the smallest thing of Old Bay we've ever had in our house.
They make some
put this on popcorn. You put it on everything.
Yeah, they make some hilariously small Old Bay cans, which was great for hauling one into the Boundary Water. This Nikki Williams gal chiming in says, Dan, you can make a channel like Outdoor Boys out there fixing stuff. I actually have a channel that Ben Smith and I started, and this is not going to surprise you at all. It's called Out Dudesman's Outdoors. So we have this exists. This exists. We have one video that we didn't make public. It was a good one. Ben, I filmed Ben, and he shot his first really nice buck of his life, and it was just an awesome encounter, awesome shot, awesome everything. But we just, like, neither one of us likes to edit it, and we just haven't invested the time to make it a thing. But the channel exists. Out Dudesman's Outdoors. So as soon as I'm done nerding out on bookkeeping businesses and have a little more time to invest in that, Out Dudesman's Outdoors will go a little bit bigger. And then I'm working on my new LLC, Business Owner Outdoor Badasses. Nikki won't be as impressed by this as Rob will be, but that's Boob LLC. And it's a mastermind. This is a legit thing. It's just dudes being immature dudes. No surprise.
If we put a name to it and register it with the government, it makes it official.
Yeah.
And if you put a paperclip on it, then that can make whatever else is paperclip to that. That counts according to The Simpsons.
Perfect. This is the best logic there is.
Yeah.
That's going to be a outdoor business mastermind where we just get together, ride around on tractors, go hunting, go fishing, do outdoor stuff. And if you get a bunch of business owners together, Rob came up ice fishing this winter. You don't have to have a specific agenda for a mastermind. You just got to get people together, and they're going to talk about business, because if you own a business, you don't know what else to talk about anyway. It's just what you're going to talk about. So just get the right people together, put a fun activity around it where, to what you said earlier, Brad, your mind is focused on the thing that you're doing already. When you're around the people that you like to be around, you're going to, well, you were supposed to come ice fishing too, Brad, by the way.
I know. I was waiting for that.
Yeah. You would have been there. Everybody that was there had said, like, that was the best business event I've ever been to. And I was like, that's cool, because it wasn't, I mean, it was intentionally like, let's get some business owners together. But it did spark this idea of, why don't we just do this as like a mastermind thing where we do a fun outdoorsy activity, get the right people around, and we're going to have a whole bunch of fun while we do it. But of course we're going to talk about business, and like, we can do it like this. This is super fun, but it's cool when you're just with each other for like 3-4 days.
Face to face, man, is there's something about, you can't give up that IRL,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Business Owner Outdoor Badasses. It's coming. Yeah. Boob LLC. We're doing it. Anyway, Brad, we got to get to your project. We talked about the Unhinged podcast. Rob, you got to go Screwball Anderson. You got to go check out the Unhinged podcast. I'm gonna roll around in the car this weekend and get the family going on it. But we got to talk about grit, because I've seen posts about it, but I honestly don't know. I don't know what grit. I know what Unhinged is. I've been listening to that, but I don't know what grit is. But I do see on the picture there's a dude washing stuff, so I figured this would be a good time to let Rob in. Like, that guy likes to wash some stuff. So tell us a little bit about what the heck grit is.
Oh man. Yeah. So it is our attempt to celebrate the wash industry with what will hopefully turn out to be a pretty nice docuseries. So wanted to kind of get in, and I don't know what I was watching at the time, but it was like, there's some like really cool projects out there. Like, I think someone was showing me one of the old, what is the company what's the wire, they make machines. I know they make it for a lot of industries, but they make pressure washers out of Europe. They're like yellow and black.
DeWalt.
No, pressure washer.
Well, DeWalt makes a really crappy pressure washer.
Nilfisk, is that yellow and black?
What's Nilfisk? And
that's not who I'm thinking of, is it?
No, there's one that our local company, that's all they sell. I think they're ridiculously overpriced.
I was going to go with Honda. But then you said yellow and black, and I was like, I better shut my mouth. Furman. They make generators.
Well, this is I can't remember. Karcher.
Not Landa, but Karcher. Okay.
Well, they own Landa, right? They're
all,
the parent company for
I don't
Lambda.
know how Skip knows this. Skip, you must have been done some bookkeeping for somebody that had a Karcher pressure washer. I don't know how Skip knew that. Dude's
So
a
anyway, I was
wizard.
totally struggling. So years ago, they went and filmed some guys cleaning like the Space Needle. And this is awful video. Like it looks like local news. Like there's no story. Yes, you get the impression it's like, hey, this is pretty cool, right? But like they totally didn't execute it. I mean, it's like 15 years old. And I'm watching it. It's like, man, there's some like really cool projects out there. And I've always enjoyed adventure documentaries. Like I'm a huge fan of like the climbing docs, and following along these series. I love the characters. I love how you get behind the scenes. And it's like, this industry is so much cooler than what most people think it is. You know, like I think most people imagine pressure washer, a dude washing your house off with something, you know, that they have in the back of their truck.
Mhm.
But very few people think about like the projects and the companies and the things out there. And I've gotten to know a lot. I'm not a pressure washer, but I've spent enough time around it that I've gotten to know a lot of the cool people in the industry. It's like there's amazing personalities in the industry. And it's like it really deserves like, let's go like full on like dirty jobs and like make a cool show that like dives into the industry and celebrates it,
Heck yeah.
you know, for what it is. And so kind of had this crazy idea. Ryan and I were talking one day and I was like, man, what if we made that? What if we made like our own version of Dirty Jobs? And like, you know,
funny you say that because the minute you said like we're gonna do a docuseries on pressure washing, I was like, this just sounds like right up Dirty Jobs alley.
yeah, but and I think the thing we wanted to take away was like a little bit more focused on the people, you know, a little bit more focused on like kind of take away like, I don't know, I don't love the way like a lot of TV's cut. So just like, you know, just kind of take away that and like, you know, be a little bit more real and raw. And so we started pitching the thing around. Pat Clark jumped in on it. He actually co-hosts this pilot episode with me. He's tentatively, everybody pressures him. I think he'll continue to co-host the show with me as we make more episodes.
Yeah. Do you need us to pressure him? We can totally pressure him.
Yeah, please. Yeah, you need to. He needs the encouragement. And it's really good to have him in it because like I'm not an industry insider. I get to play more of the micro, you know, in the whole show and like step back and like I get to go in and learn. And so like I kind of play that role. He's a little bit more of the insider. Jay Racenstein got involved. So Steve Blythe kind of came down while we were filming and did some stuff. And of course, you know, he's like very professional. Definitely like goes like really deep. I've had these like long interviews of him and Pat like out like talking details on the job. And so maybe we'll publish that separately. So anyway, I wanted to create this really cool series.
That's behind the scenes cut.
Yeah, it's extended cut, right? And so anyway, wanted to create this thing, you know, find the biggest, coolest projects, check out like the companies that are like beyond what, you know, I think it's like that next level company. And then I think the funnest part about the whole thing is like meet all the crazy ass people in the industry and like
and Brad doesn't even know who I am.
Well, see, that's the thing. Like there's people I don't know, right?
Yeah.
So so that was the vision for it. So, you know, we pulled together, shared it with a lot of people, and it really hit me in that process. It's like, we've got to make one of these for people to really get it. If we want to pull off like a full season, like pull off like a full 10 episode season of this. So we pulled it together, went down and shot the pilot. We did it with Crystal Clean down in Jacksonville, Florida. I'd done some work with them before. Went down there. What's that?
With Ray Burke.
No, Ray was not there because, you know, Ray's working over in Tallahassee, which is unfortunate. Okay. I really like Ray, and hopefully he'll get to be in a subsequent episode. But yeah, so we were down there. They have got an awesome facility, really cool people, and we filmed them. They were doing a clean and restoration on the Duval County Courthouse. So we've documented that, which is a really impressive building nonetheless. But yeah, so that episode, it comes out tomorrow. So tomorrow we're launching the pilot of Grit. And so, you know, we're going to try to get some momentum behind it. And the goal is like, Pat and I'd go around the country and pull off 10 episodes and really show like the breadth of projects and like the breadth of work. You know, want to do like we've talked a little bit about kind of maybe doing a stadium, a skyscraper, got potentially an opportunity to maybe go work with some of the guys that clean some of the monuments up in DC. You know, maybe like some like really crazy access stuff. Yeah, and I think really what I found in like the whole thing was the best part was the people though. And I when we first started this, it was like all about like what are the coolest projects we could film.
Yeah.
But then as like we've dived into it, it's like I think we could.
Who are the
I don't
most
even
fun
matters. I think it's
people?
just the people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But the people are so freaking cool. And the people we met on this were not the, you know, I know some of the people down at Crystal Clean, but the people we went and hung out with, the guys washing, a guy named Mike and Eugene and their crew, they're like kind of the I guess you could call them, I don't know what you call it. Like they do all the rope descension. They're like the high risk crew for Crystal Clean. And like they were the coolest freaking guys, man. Like I just want to find more guys like that and like make videos with them because they are like the heroes of the industry, in my opinion. And I think they're probably the ones that aren't shown or talked about nearly as much. So yeah, but yeah, that's a little snippet of all over the place about kind of what we're doing with Grit.
Where do we go to watch this? Is this like on YouTube?
So it's on YouTube. The premiere's on YouTube. I invited you to watch it tomorrow, Dan. So feel free to share it.
I saw a Facebook note about it. Is that
so there's a link in there for YouTube.
Okay, I did
a Facebook event and put the link for the premiere tomorrow on YouTube.
I tried Googling Unhinged podcast, and yeah, shocker. There's some weird,
there's a lot of weird stuff out there.
Weird stuff.
So back to
Henry Bachman. If you haven't gotten up with him, he does a lot of the Monument DC stuff, and then Daniel Simmons cleans the friggin' space shuttle.
What?
See?
Yeah, so I mean that's a moonshot there, all puns intended. But
that sounds like an Unhinged.
You want something cool as shit to do? There you go.
Well, the whole project's a moonshot, Rob. I mean, that's what we're finding with this whole thing. So I just dropped a link in our private chat that take you to the podcast website.
Sweet.
The no fail. I don't know why when you search it in Spotify, everything else comes up. I don't know. Screw Spotify, screw Apple Podcast. But anyway, that website will work. Unhingedfencepodcast.com. There's a lot of weird podcasts.
Nikki just dropped it out. Nikki dropped it out on the Facebook. I'm putting it out on the YouTube feed for everybody.
So when we were doing this, like the other reason we were going to work with Crystal Clean on this project was at the time they were cleaning the Jag Stadium. And, you know, it's a really big project that's fun, you know, and they don't mind cameras there. You know, we weren't like going into something where it's like we're going to, you know, no one's going to want us to film anything.
Yep.
And so we get set up. I get everything in, travel's booked, everybody's booked, everything's going. Like we're like locked in on this. And I think it was 10 days before we were set to shoot. I get on the phone with Crystal Clean. They're like, yeah, so we're not doing that anymore.
Oh no.
That contract is over. And it was like, oh.
And you're like, who got the contract?
Who got the content? Who got the content? Because you better be recording.
So that fell apart. And that was the whole point of it. Like that was the whole point was we need to do something that's like really public facing, visible for the first episode. And so that fell apart, and they were already working at the courthouse. They're like, hey, do you want to do this? And I'm looking at pictures online. I'm like, I don't, you know. And Ryan, guy that works with me on all this stuff, he was like, yeah, that's lame. Let's not do that. Let's cancel it. So everybody's telling me to cancel this thing. Like just pull the plug on it. And I got talking with my my field director, my field producer, and she was like, you just got to go make something out of this. Like, just forget that. Just go do it. Let's just go do it.
It's actually the perfect, like, sometimes the first one you do, don't try to bite off more than you can chew. Just go get a rep. Like,
well, and I think that was the thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like at the time it was like, are we sure we should do this? Right. And so we get down there, we're driving down to the thing, right? Like, and I was going to ask you why you do this late at night. It's because people say things because they're tired. and like the nights rolled on, and so now they're revealing things that like they probably shouldn't on like a public forum. So
Well,
we're
that's not
rolling
why.
down
It's just because
there.
my kids are.
You're in the wrong spot.
So we're rolling down there, and we get a phone call that basically we'd been told that we had permission, but we don't have permission to film.
Weird.
And like kind of this whole cascade of things. And if we could just push it off a couple more days, like my field producer's on a plane. The rest of us are in a car. We've already picked Pat up.
Oh God.
We're in a car between South Carolina and Florida.
We're on
I have paid everyone to be there for 2 days, you know, and we do not have extra budget on this. You know, it's not like we're like, oh yeah, we'll hang out till the end of the week. Like, no big deal. I was like, dude, we are filming. So figure out what we're filming. And I won't name names, but said proprietor down there was like, well, maybe we just need to cancel. And I was like, heck we are. We're coming down and filming. Figure out what we're filming. And but yeah, we get down there. Then we're supposed to go up on the swing stage on the side of this building, which is kind of really cool because there's this huge, like on the upper section of the building, you have to get on a roof and then get on this upper section of the building, and there's like this 70 or 80 feet where the swing stage can't roll against the building. It just swings like a swing. It actually works like a swing. And so I watched some of the videos of what happens when wind gets a hold of these swing stages, and it can get pretty nasty.
You don't want to be standing on one.
Yeah. And so we get there. This really cool thing. It's going to make like such cool footage to get up on this. And we get there, and the wind is blowing like at a good sustained, like 35 miles an hour.
Oh God.
And Mike, I'm standing up there with Mike, and Mike is like, dude, I cannot. He's like, you could die on this. Like I can't take you up there. And I'm sitting here thinking the whole point of this is to film something like that has a feeling of some type of risk, right? Like,
but
that is why we are here. You know, we're not at the stadium. We're at this courthouse, which is this insanely beautiful, huge building. Like, it was cool. Like, it took up like at least a city block. You know, it was cool. But and now we're not going to get on the swing stage. So we're going to basically like get up in a lift and like soft wash a few things, and that's our action. And I am just like, we are sunk. This whole thing is just sunk. So then we go around and we start spending time with the people, and what comes out of it is the freaking people that have make up that business, that have built that business to where it is today. And I know they're now a subsidiary of Fleet Wash, Kept, whatever you want to call it. Is some of the most amazing talent of you know, people that play roles, whether it's operations or their chief mechanic, or guys like Mike or Eugene, or that blew me away. And like spending time with them and the things we caught on camera, having conversations with them, was like, who cares what we clean? And that's what I walked away with. And so like when we go to like edit and we kind of pull this whole thing together at the end, like I say it at the end, and it's really not contrived. It's not the story that we went to tell.
Yeah.
You know, the story that I thought we were going to tell is like, let's drop Brad off the side of a building. I'm scared of heights. Makes for good TV. You know, like I'm thinking like high risk. Like in my mind, it's like we're making a Jimmy Chin series, but it's about pressure washing.
Yeah.
And then like we don't film anything like that while we're there. But the cool part is it's really like the amazing people, and like Jeremy's ability to recruit and put these people into an organization where they all thrive. Mm-hmm. And it was like, so everything changed. Nothing worked according to plan. But I think what we made at the end, all things considered, and we got a rep in, which was really, really valuable.
Yeah.
Was pretty cool. So it's one of those classic things, man. It's like what can go wrong will go wrong. It was so sideways, but I'm very proud of what we created nonetheless.
Heck yeah. And over and over again, I find nothing's going to go perfect, and some things are going to go worse than other things. But as long as you just keep moving, right? Like if you didn't go at all, you'd have jack shit. So even just moving and pushing and trying it, like even if it didn't go well, you would have still learned a lot. That would have made it the next one that much better. And now you learned a lot and you got something cool out of it. And the next time you will be able to clean the cool thing, and you'll also have this other angle of like, let's see what these guys want to talk about and bring that in. So it gives you like room to improve, and you already made something cool to start with.
Yeah. I think the thing is, you know, going into a project like this is being able to say, I know I have this idea and there's a vision and we're here to capture something, but being totally open to like where the journey will go. And it took stepping back in retrospect to get there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that, like, I don't know, I wouldn't trade it. I'm glad we went. I'm glad we went and filmed it. I'm glad we made it. You know, sharing it. Have you seen it? I haven't seen. I didn't send you a sneak preview. I'm sorry. I should have done it before we sat down and talked.
You know what? You might have sent me a sneak preview, but with Marty traveling for 3 weeks in a row here, I'm so far behind on anything that's in any inbox of mine. I'm just
okay.
like,
I can't remember if I did or not. I know. I
have.
said something to you about it, but I can't remember if I sent it to you. Anyway, you know, long and short of it though, like, man, you just got to kind of roll with the punches and stuff like this. You know, you got to, like, nothing turns out like you think it'll turn out. Like that was like the big takeaway.
What a good reflection of running a small business, right? Like you're trying to capture it and you're capturing what it's really like, because that's what running a pressure washing business is like. Is here's what we thought we were going to go do. And here's what we are going to be able to do based on the elements, based on who showed up today, based on everything else about this project, what the customer changing their mind about something. Mm-hmm. And so you like captured reality for running a small business, which is you're just in the business of decision making and problem solving. I don't care if you're building the fence. I don't care if you're pressure washing something. I don't care what you're doing. You're in the business of decision making and problem solving.
Well, I think that's the key thing with power washing, though. It's like people are like, "Oh, well, this is broken. That's broken. It's always, there's always something broken." Yes, you're right. We have a whole lot of connections, a whole lot of things that are going on, a whole lot of moving parts, and it's not letting those things derail you. It's like, okay, cool. This quick coupler, it's broken. Now what do we do? Oh, this thing won't come off. What do we do now? Like finding that resilience and perseverance to get it done and just find a way, instead of being like, what do I do? You know what I mean? Like I feel like that's what builds, as you said, grit with all of us. So,
yeah, I love that. I think I've kind of come to a conclusion. You're doing some of these different projects that are, you know, stretching for me too. To get involved with them is like, I love business books. I love business podcasts and, you know, consuming content. And I'm a pretty cerebral person, but there is nothing that substitutes for doing it.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to learning. And like, I think like, you know, kind of, we talked a lot about the process of creating Unhinged, and like, we're making something that like no one else makes. Like there was no standard for it. And like going into it,
you don't even have anything to compare yourself against. You're like, which is kind of cool and kind of scary.
It's totally scary. But the thing is like, what I know today about how to create a fictional audio drama, like I couldn't have read enough books or listened to enough podcasts or talked to enough people that had done it to get that. The only way that and I think about like what that changed to my knowledge to do that, to just get in and make one. Right. Yeah. And like, I think the same thing with this. And like that's been the lesson for me. The big takeaway about the whole thing is like, man, the learning of doing is nothing comes close. And I don't know why it's hit me so hard through these projects. Maybe it's because they were out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know, to do them. But yeah, it's there's nothing that compares to it.
It is like astounding. You can pay for whatever education you want, but there's just no school as good as getting hands-on stuff. There's just nothing that compares it's just
I'll say that's one of the biggest challenges too, though, is that we've learned so much from that hands-on, and then when you bring somebody in, and like that's a big struggle. I'm at 15 plus years in the business, and I expect somebody, in 3 months, 6 months to be like, yeah, I've caught up to Rob and knowing things, or to be, without everything breaking and be like, well, I'm an hour away from home. What do I do? So yeah, it's hard to get people to understand what you've built and that knowledge from having to figure it out.
And it's hard to document it all. Like, you don't even know all the things you couldn't write them all down. If you had like a week, you wouldn't come up with all the things that you actually know, right? They're back in there somewhere. You're working on forgetting them, but they're still back there somewhere.
Well, and it's not even like the list of things, it's the connections. Like, it's how, this connects to that and this relates to that, and it's all those things that you've built up through the experience. It's not even like, I know, here's this 100 points that you need. No, it's what happened in that situation and how it relates to this and how it relates to that. And you've heard it said, your brain is a pattern recognition machine.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's the advantage that we have over machines, is the way that our brain builds patterns and recognizes patterns. And it really can only happen with time. I don't know what that trick is. And I'm so fascinated with, like, how do you pass on knowledge? How can you shortcut it for somebody else? Like, can you speed it up?
Yeah, you
so
just
that,
you plug the thing in the back of their head. You put it back in the chair. You put the thing in the back of their head. There's a screen with a bunch of green numbers going down.
Yeah,
and then
if only. Yeah.
And then they're like, I know Kung Fu. That's how it works.
Yeah.
I've got that. Yeah, I've seen that.
I would sign up for that if they had it, for sure.
Yeah, just download me that program. This Nikki gal says, let's get the space shuttle guy on here. I like that.
So why do they still clean the space shuttle? The space shuttle doesn't fly anymore. Is that is it like part of like the museum? Like the guy washes it still? Is that still like a?
I don't know.
I'm trying to imagine that, because the space shuttle stopped flying, like, what was it, like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe?
Maybe that's just what they want you to think.
It was, technically honestly, they retired the space shuttle and NASA's missions in the Obama administration, but I don't know.
They may have stopped funding it, but I'll say, I know that I've seen Dan post videos where they've done that project in the last, I would say definitely in the last 4 years. I don't know if it's been the last 2.
It would make for great video. Like, I know that, like, just because somebody cleans the monuments in Washington, we're not going to get to film any of it. Like, we might get to talk to them about it, like, in a very general way. They're not going to let us get close to the White House, probably, so I can shoot some stupid Netflix thing that, a handful of people are going to watch. But
I took a shooter tip to the monument. I mean, not to shoot things.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't even, who knows what kind of language we could use before we'd get taken down. So anyway, but I do think there's something to like celebrate.
Don't they have some cool? Aren't there some like fake monuments, like the Eiffel Tower is in Vegas? Can't you just go like pretend like you're cleaning the Eiffel Tower? Like, just go get the right camera angles. There's probably some other,
a little movie magic.
Yeah,
just a little movie magic.
Yeah, that's how they do it in the pros. Well, Brad, I'm pumped, man. I have all sorts of structure to grow content to catch up on now. I got a couple episodes of Unhinged. I got to watch some YouTube action tomorrow. What timeline wise, what you said you're working on season 2 of Unhinged, but there's still a few episodes of season 1 left to go, right?
Yeah. So there's 3 more episodes of season 1. They come out Tuesday, like 5:30 in the morning. Just to kind of have them ready for people. I know we do have some of an audience that likes to listen to it on their way into work.
Yeah.
So 3 more episodes of that. And
I don't have time to listen. I don't have time to listen to it on my way into work, because like the 30 feet down the hall, I just don't, like, by the time I get it on, I gotta turn it off.
People with real jobs that, have to get in their truck.
I understand that. Yeah, I understand that.
If they don't make tank top videos for.
It's hot out, man. I was thinking about wearing a tank top tonight. I'm turning into Bobby Walker.
America.
Need more tank tops around here.
we are working on kind of getting set up for season 2. It takes about 5 months
No kidding.
to produce a season.
I suppose it is a lot to pull together and coordinate all the humans.
It is. The humans definitely take time. All of us it takes time to get through it. So right now the schedule is to get started writing next month. So we're trying to time it around a big industry event in the fence world. But yeah, we've got a couple of new supporters, a couple new companies that are going to kind of jump on board as sponsors. Because again, at the end of the day, there is a business that is being advertised and sponsored through the series, even if it's fairly subtle. But yeah, we have a couple new sponsors on board, so we'll start writing it hopefully in August, and later in the year, towards the end of the year, we're targeting around the holidays, first of 2025, we'll have season 2. And thinking about, because I want to go somewhere new. Like I don't want to stay in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be really fun for the guys to kind of maybe end up in Vegas. And I love this idea of maybe them getting tangled up with like a mob family and like getting themselves in a little bit of trouble. So maybe not so much mystery, but more of like a couple of gung-ho contractors kind of getting themselves mixed up in the wrong thing. So
with the voice talent you have, season 3, I think deep South Louisiana out in the bayou, like the voice actors would have a lot of fun with that one. You'd be like building they'd be building rafts. They'd be building those like little houseboat things going up and down the bayou.
Yeah.
They don't really need fence. Maybe they need fences to keep their kids from falling off the boat.
There you go. So we'll store that one in the bank. But yeah, I'd love to see this thing go. Maybe 4, maybe 5 seasons, I think, in that. And of course, we're kind of setting our sights to maybe we can bring the concept to another industry. I think it would have to be we need the right people to get involved with it. But I think fiction has some runway on it. Anywhere that we would take anything like it, there wouldn't be anything like it, and there wouldn't be any competitors to it in that space. And I think maybe mixing fiction with something that's like hyper niche.
I think sewer and drain repair has everything you ever wanted in it. People crawling around people's crap, working underground, replacing pipes. There's a lot of drama down there.
I can imagine. I don't want to imagine. I'm going to choose not to.
You already went there. I can see it on your face. It was like when you see a plumber's crack and you're like, oh, and then you look back at it one more time to verify that it is what you thought you saw.
Well, I guess.
Man, is that you?
I guess if you can, if the voice actors can help us imagine what things look like, I suppose they can also help us imagine what things smell like too, right?
Rob wouldn't know. Rob doesn't have a sense of smell.
Can't smell anything.
No, he's toast.
Nothing. Yesterday I walk out in the shop and I'm like, I walk by one of the machines and pressure washers. And I'm like, this air is bad. This is bad air. Like I walked around, did some more stuff. And I walked back over. I was like, this air is really bad. I go find the sales guy. I was like, hey man, can you go smell out there? Like, I don't know what's is really bad, but it's bad. I breathed it in twice, so you'll survive. But could you tell me, is it bleach? Is it a bomb? Is it poison? I don't know what's going on. And so we put our big chicken fan out there to circulate some non-toxic air and found out they left 3.5% in the line. I was like, yeah, we should probably flush the roof mix out of this thing.
Air is bad.
Yeah.
Air is bad. So your brain knew something was wrong, but
yeah. I've walked through a chicken coop before and it was like that. That's when you should get, and shouldn't be that difficult. It's just a nasty, why does anybody with
lightheaded from the methane? You can't really smell that it smells.
Dude, I didn't understand. I walked through this, it's 600, or no, was it 200 yards? So it's 600 feet. And I'm walking along. I'm like, same thing. I was like, something's up with this air. I don't know what's going on. I'm going to just keep walking. And the next thing I know, I'm halfway through this thing and I see the little farmer guy. He's riding on his John Deere tractor, and he's got like the Desert Storm mask on his face. And I'm like, I should probably step outside and get some fresh air. And I go outside. Oh yeah, this is way better.
This air. I don't know. I can't smell it, but I can tell this air is better.
Yeah.
Not toxic at all. Yeah,
No.
nothing to worry about here.
I didn't die. I did not die. I promise you that.
I don't know, with AI technology today, hard to know if you're actually Rob.
We have the best economy in the world right now. This is a baseball bat. Sorry.
So you are drinking Screwball. Now we have intentional Screwball. Well, dudes, I'm gonna go to bed because I gotta keep chasing these 3 kids around. Now Marty gets home at like noon tomorrow. She's supposed to be home tonight. I was supposed to be off the hook, but I'm still on the hook for one more day. So I'm gonna call it tonight. Even though I'm the one on Central Time and you guys are on Eastern Time, you guys gotta be toast.
Yeah, this is well past my bedtime, but it's always a pleasure, Dan.
I know, and you always hang in there with me. I know you're like exhausted. Rob just got a couple screws loose. He like never gets tired. I don't know what his deal is. But Brad, I'm like, now I'm stoked to listen to some more episodes of Unhinged tomorrow and like hang out with Marty and listen to him because we got all kinds of wheel time. And I'm what time? What do we know? Is there a time that
so 1 o'clock Eastern tomorrow will premiere the episode, but of course, you watch it at your convenience on YouTube. Real excited to put that out to the world. We've gotten some really positive feedback on it, so I think it's gonna be really cool, and I'm excited to see where the journey goes.
Super fun, man. I just love I love like the direction you're going with everything and just pushing boundaries and making fun stuff. You said like how much you love consuming business content and reading books and other business podcasts. I don't love them. I'm bored to death by them and I don't like being sold stuff. And I just feel like every time I'm reading a business book, they're just trying to sell me their book. Like I feel like I read so many of them. I'm just like, you just got me to pay you $20 for like common sense shit to me. So I don't love them. If you're gonna like give me something like that, make it fun. If it's fun, like you talked about Patrick Lencioni, make it fun for me. Then sell me some shit, but at least give me some entertainment with it. And so I'm just Brad, I'm just proud of you, man. I'm just really proud that you are pushing and going this direction. Like I'm really proud that you're my friend and I get to like support you and come along for the ride. It's super cool. I'm just super proud. But it's awesome, man. I'm jacked up. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the content and keep them coming.
Yeah.
Keep it coming, man.
Yeah. We'll keep rolling with it. And thank you, Dan. You're always an awesome support. I love getting to hang out with you, even if I have to stay up well on past my bedtime.
Just wait till you come ice fishing.
Yeah.
There's no time in the ice fishing world.
I'm staying still. My dad, this is like true to this day. From the minute I'd like go fishing and drink beer with my dad, which like I probably went fishing with him before I drank beer, but I grew up in Wisconsin, so I don't know. I think I was 4 when my grandma gave me my first beer.
It's apple juice.
I think I was 4. But we always have this thing where time spent fishing or hunting doesn't count. Like if you have so many minutes on planet Earth, time spent fishing and hunting doesn't count against you. So you got to do as much of it as possible. That's how you live a long time. So get out there. Probably riding around on a tractor, same thing.
Yeah, sage wisdom here.
Free time.
So you want to tag this moment in Gyrus? You got to create that as a quote and clip of Dan with his sage wisdom. Fishing doesn't count towards your minutes of your life. They're free minutes.
They are totally free. They're not always free to your spouse.
Yeah.
They don't always see it the same way.
It's like the AOL CD. You get 800 free hours of internet fishing.
Yeah. So, and then once you're out there, then you better like stay out there while it is free time before you get back and you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't need to quit early. Even if you catch your limit, just stay out there and have a couple more beers, soak that time up. All right, dudes. Thanks for coming on, Rob. Thanks for jumping in and joining, man.
Yeah, man.
I feel like it's been a while since you jumped in. It was fun to BS with you. I miss you.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
Brad, keep it coming. I love it.
Sir.
I'll if I come up with any other stupid ideas like season 3 in Louisiana or anything like that, I'm gonna run them by you, and I fully expect that you're not going to use them. But if it's anything cool, you go for it. Home service homies, business nerds, thank you guys for tuning in. Go check out Brad's stuff. I'm not lying. It's super fun. It's super cool. If you're like me at all and you get a little bit bored with business content where it's like bullet points and they're trying to sell you stuff, this is like what it's all about. This is super fun. You can learn some stuff. You can be entertained. Obviously, this is what I'm all about. I make a podcast that's just me BSing with people that I like to BS with for this exact same reason. I'm all about it. I love it. Hope you guys do. Hope you guys do too. There's one word in there that I missed. And as always,
did you say duty? You said duty in there.
Do too.
Duty.
Did I say?
No, you didn't.
I don't even know what I said. I tried to correct myself, and then I didn't know what I screwed up, but I knew I screwed something up, and then I don't even know if I got it right the second time I said it, which tells me that it's time for me to go to bed. You guys know what to do. Work smarter and harder. Go earn some pride. Good night.